Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome for an opening fireside chat of Webit Global Impact Week 2021, the person I have been personally inviting for the past 15 years. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Mr. Eric Schmidt. Dear Eric, I'm obviously so excited to have you with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I very much look forward to the Miami event.
Indeed. One of our hybrid locations for Webit Global Impact Week this year. We are honored to have you opening this forum with over 100,000 attendees from over 190 countries. And today is the day, the first day of the Global Webit Impact Week, dedicated to the society architects, which we believe you're one of. And my first question to you in regards to your position as a commissioner of the US National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence, could you please tell us some of the, and share, of course, some of the latest projects that you work on, as long as this is not national security, and maybe what is the AI impact on national security?
Well, there are many. 3 years ago, the Congress put together a group. I was asked to be the chairman to look at AI and national security. We concluded, and there's a long report on nscai.gov that everyone can read, 751 pages, I might add, that the United States was not prepared for the upcoming conflicts in this area with China, that China had identified this area as something that they wanted to lead and eventually dominate in. In the Chinese system, it benefits both their corporations, but also their national security apparatus. And we believe that China is only perhaps a year behind the United States in this area, investing very heavily to catch up. We think it's important that AI be built in the West, reflecting Western values. And Western values here include lack of surveillance, freedom of speech, democracies, the ability to say and operate and have personal freedom. And we want to make sure that the AI systems that get built globally reflect those American or Western values. We also, and there's a long list of these things, said that the US government needs to do a lot more research funding. There needs to be a national research network. There needs to be a great deal more focus on getting those people of this kind of talent into the government. There are many changes that are needed in the military and in particular in the DoD, and a long list of partnerships. It's very important that we recognize that we're not going to do this alone. We're going to do this with the top countries, the obvious ones being the leading European countries, Israel, Britain, and so forth and so on.
I remember it. I can't recall exactly how long ago it was, but it was quite soon that there was quite good publicizing of something that was called AI weapon from China, and the announcement was that they found 5,000 of their brightest, obviously out of 1.345 billion these days, who to work particularly on AI weapon, which sounded itself quite challenging as a news release. But obviously what you're saying makes so much sense and brings obviously to the table what really matters, that we need to put so much focus on building this. And I'm very happy and proud to say that Bulgaria stays at the where I belong and I was born, stays at the very high ranks when it comes to young people and their global and results in mathematics and physics and programming, with golden medals from many different places around the world. So I agree with you. Talent is everywhere, and it will be great to be harnessed for this great cause. You have also done some significant work on the intersection of biology and AI, and you have launched your center at Board Institute together with your wife, Wendy Schmidt. What are your achievements in this section?
So to comment first on Bulgaria, Bulgaria is a good example of why it's important to have a good culture. In the former Soviet influenced countries, all had a doctrine around science and science education, which will serve them well. The countries which never got their act together to focus on technology and education, in particular, very high skills education, math, science, physics, biology, that sort of thing, they're going to fall behind, because the countries that have both the knowledge and the resources to deploy this AI technology are going to leap ahead of the other countries that don't have it, which bodes well for a number of countries which have been relatively small in the sphere. On biology, I became convinced that biology is a platform in which huge change can occur through artificial intelligence. And a simple explanation is that today we understand physics and math quite well, but our understanding of biology and biological processes at the cell level, for example, are still very rudimentary. We understand DNA, we understand RNA, but we don't fundamentally understand the language of life. We don't understand how these systems communicate with each other. And it's so complicated because a process was over, billions of years of natural evolution, that the only way to discover that is to use AI tools, machine learning tools, to watch and discover the hidden patterns. In other words, when something happens over here, this happens over there. And that's going to be how we're going to discover how biology works, how cells communicate, the biology of life. It's also probably how we're going to learn how intelligence and the brain works, because we have the same complexity there.
Well, I look forward to your finding, and hopefully we will hear them very soon. But that's the next frontier. And I definitely do agree with you. And I think we all agree at the Webit community, and that's where we get together and we discuss that this is the next stage of the development. And at the same time, for that particular stage, it takes good people with good and big hearts who are there for the good of everyone, for that desirable future that we want to build, because the opposite could be very challenging. I remember this old story from the mythology for a king who wanted to have golden hands, and whatever he touches to turn into gold. And what happened afterward is that what he touched, every food he touched, it turned into gold. So we have to be very careful what we are wishing for on that way. And that's why I believe the heart should be gold in terms of good. And I know that in your case, we have that exact example. You have written a book with Henry Kissinger called The Age of AI and Our Human Future, which explores the present state of our technology and the future potential of AI. Please share in front of the Webit community your vision for what you hope the world will look like if we harness AI for the good of humanity. And having in mind this be careful what you wish for story for this ancient king.
Well, I completely agree with your comment about heart. I use the word human values to make the same point. Dr. Kissinger, Dan Huttenlocher, who is the Dean of Computer Science at MIT, and myself, wrote a book called The Age of AI and Our Human Future to try to describe where we think society is going to go. The book includes a lengthy discussion about the technology and the platforms, but it's really a book about the lessons of history and how they apply to the upcoming AI revolution. What we say in the book is that we've never had in our entire existence as human beings another intelligence that's similar but not the same as humans coexisting with us. And we believe that there is a lack of understanding of the impact of that on humanity. We believe that it is transformational. And in fact, we believe it is as transformational as the Reformation. If you go back to the age of reason, what happened was before that, it was largely, the idea was that you weren't an independent actor. You essentially did what the god or the king said. And the age of reason said that humans were better than that we think, therefore I am, in the famous words of Descartes. And that the important thing about human existence was that we were thinking people who could think our ways through problems, and we could challenge assumptions and challenge authority if it was wrong. That's got us to 400 years later, extraordinary success as a species. When this other new intelligence emerges, which it will over the next 10 or 20 years, we need a new philosophy of how to deal with it. This is true, for example, with respect to national security. When war is prosecuted by a computer with human oversight, and the decisions happen so quickly, what are the moral and philosophical and diplomatic constraints? We suggest some, but we don't really know. We ask the question. Another example, you're a parent and you have a 2-year-old, you give your 2-year-old a bear, and the bear is AI enabled. And every year the kid gets a better bear that's smarter every year, and the kid grows up. And at the age of 12, let's think about it. They're watching TV, the bear and the kid, they're best friends. The bear says, I don't like this television show. And the kid says, I don't either. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about having your child growing up whose best friend is not a human being? We have no idea what the impact of that will be on human society. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad. There's so many examples where when we become dependent on these technologies, we don't know how humans will react. Another example, in society, there'll be more and more complicated systems that make our lives work, where the computer is making recommendations or decisions. Self-driving cars, scheduling things, product availability, information being fed to you, whether you like it or not. How will people feel when they cannot explain or understand how those decisions are made? How was I given poor treatment compared to someone else, and the computer cannot tell me why? Will people revolt? Will people eventually decide that this is some new god that they have to admire in a religious form? Or will people say, I can't take this, and they'll become nativist, and they'll refuse to use this ubiquitous technology all around us? We honestly just don't know. If you look at the impact of social media on society, I don't think the people who invented social media and worked hard to make it happen had any idea the kind of forces and impact that it would unleash, good and bad, on humans, because you're targeting human being, their intelligence and their biases. This will get even more profoundly powerful and even more profoundly problematic in the next 10 years.
I hear you, Eric, and I can't agree more. Saying particularly about intentions, because we are at event now, it's been a while since we have been studying events, and we found out that it's only 20% of the people that you meet at events while you're traveling around the world, and you're actually leaving your carbon dioxide footprint all around through your way, planes, the litter you create at events, which is phenomenal. We brought in the past, before COVID, 15, 20,000 people at one place from 120 plus countries. But still, it turned out, using numbers, that it's only 20% of the people that you meet are actually new people. The other 80 are people you already know. So we wanted to change this ratio, and this is how we started the TVS. And first it was the networking. So we put algorithms in there, including the marriage algorithm, which is Nobel Prize winning. And we added some great talents in AI to start matchmaking people and start making sure that we will meet you with the right people at the place. Even if we pass by each other at the event and your phone vibrates, mine vibrates, and I see your face, you see my face, and we talk to each other, starting there and now moving virtual. And it's only great intention. But on the way, you find out that all the data you work with, et cetera, turns out that it's a completely different story. So where do you feel we should be investing now in AI? And where are the risks that you see in front of us from that perspective?
Well, first, let's talk about the extraordinary things that AI is going to do.
Yes, please.
Drug discovery, the ability to invent new humans to bedeviling human problems of aging and illness and so forth. All of that will be accelerated. It's probably the case that there will be Nobel Prizes awarded to physicists and chemists that worked with computers, where it'll jointly go to the person and the computer because of the discovery. Recently, for example, DeepMind released to the public maps of protein and proteins, how they fold. That is an extraordinary science achievement, something which I thought would not be achievable in my lifetime. So the rate of acceleration and advancement of science, which is at the core of economic growth and the way our world works, every one of these will propel greater wealth, greater well-being, greater health, and all of that. There are plenty of negative issues. The most obvious one is misinformation. Because of the proliferation of this software, it will be possible for pretty much everyone to be a misinformer. That is, you can essentially get a system that will try to target people. Now, you wouldn't do this, but in your case, you have 100,000 people. You could target them and you could keep pushing them and you could manipulate them. Now, you're not going to do that, but you could. You could. Many, many people will. And that we as individuals are going to be bombarded in a way we've not seen before by these AI-enabled targeting systems, which understand our weaknesses and our prejudices and our predilections. That's an example. I'll give you another example. Let's talk about conflict. I'll tell you about a future war. North Korea decides to attack America. They begin the attack. America responds. Again, these are using cyber techniques to start with. China sees the attack occur and decides to stop it because it's not strategic for China's partnership and eventual evolution with the United States. Sounds like a great movie. In the future, this is a war that will take 3 milliseconds. That's how fast these things will happen. So in a situation where the decision-making in conflict occurs faster than human decision-making, we're going to be stuck with the outcomes of these computers. We need a doctrine. We need international diplomacy to understand where the limits are. What are the appropriate restrictions? We're here together fundamentally because in the 1950s, Dr. Kissinger and other people worked out nuclear non-proliferation rules. And they were aided by the fact that essentially weaponized uranium was very difficult to make, keep, distribute, and so forth. There is no analogous restriction on software. It's spread, it's available everywhere. We're going to have to discover new ways of talking about this to make sure we stay safe. And it's a shared safety across the globe.
If you allow me one last question, with Webit for the past year and a half, we've been welcoming over 1.5 million people virtually and producing tens of events, I believe 70 or 80, I've lost their count. But I always ask one question at the end of an interview, and I would like to ask you now, what is your vision? And no pressure, it's a very simple question. What is your vision for the coming decades? And what are your predictions on the global scale?
Well, I am very much an optimist. If you look at the globe, although we've made some terrible mistakes, the fact of the matter is people are living longer. The overall standard of living is higher uniformly. In my lifetime, more than 2 billion people came out of abject poverty to lower middle class, essentially, which is an amazing achievement. This will be the century, if you will, of Asia, where Asia, because of its scale and size, will come into its own, which I think is all good. I think it increases safety to do so. I'm extremely interested in where the next generation of artificial intelligence research goes, and in particular, general intelligence. There are people who believe that within 10 or 15 years, we'll have computers that have the kind of creativity that you and I have and we take for granted, which is very difficult for computers today. There are others who think it will take longer, but most people agree that eventually computers will be able to think in a human-like way And that will bring in my view, an extraordinary advancement in human health, human happiness, and human achievement. The reason I like Webit so much, by the way, and why I wanted to come and come to your virtual event in Miami, is that you are doing an enormous service by getting people to start thinking about these problems ahead of the time when they have to react to them. We need to collectively decide, how do we want to approach the emergence of this new intelligence or intelligences? How will they be regulated? Who will use them? How will they be used for good? I love the fact that Webit is focusing on this, and I really want to help you to do that in the future. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much, dear Eric. And I'm not sure if you know that particular illness called pronoia. Have you heard of it?
No.
Well, I have to confess, I am one of these sick people from pronoia. It is the opposite of paranoia. We are those people who believe in the global conspiracy for the good sake of the humankind.
Good.
And I truly do believe that you are one of these, part of this global conspiracy. And that's why we're so honored to have you with us. And I'm very, very grateful for your kind words. We were very fortunate, starting with 15 years back when we started this foundation just to support and give back to the community, and growing to this global community now of Webiters from all around the world. We feel like bringing together people with big, good hearts, boosting the collective intelligence could help us reach to this level where we will be somehow confident in what is going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years, building that strategy and supporting it on the way. So please count on us, on our community, and definitely delighted to support initiatives with Schmidt Futures, and looking forward to stay in touch and to welcome you over and over again and again to the Webit events. Thank you again for your time, and looking forward to stay in touch. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.